Welcome back. We're talking with legendary photographer Terry O'Neill about his work. You've been described as something of a rags to riches story. When you look at your life and you see the path you've taken, was it really a hard slug?
Well, I mean, it wasn't really, because I've enjoyed every bit of it. I've really been lucky, you know. I mean, as I got older, I can't really believe I've done half the things I've done, you know. I've worked with some great people like Elton John and Frank Sinatra and people like that, and Tom Jones and different. You know, I've really had a very fortunate life.
When you describe photography as catching the moment as it is, and when you think about, or when you look at your work in particular, what is it you think that makes your work stand out?
Well, do you know, I don't know. I mean, I just take pictures that I like, and you know, people seem to like them. So, you know, I mean, I used to get so many spreads in magazines. It was unbelievable. I don't know if it was the people I was doing or whether I was lucky.
Now, at the time of the 60s, when really your career was starting to boom, we discussed a little bit about that earlier. You and your peers at the time, David Montgomery, who's a friend of yours, yes. Terence Donovan, David Bailey, yeah. You were the guys actually setting the trend at that time. And there was a lot of great material to play with then, it seems. What was it in particular, do you think, that set that trend, set the mood that made it so perfect for photographing?
Well, I mean, I put it like the East End took over the West End, because it was all highbrow people and all that type of thing, and all us lads from the East End came along and changed it all around. I mean, you can't believe what London was like at the time. I mean, you know, we were the sort of the rubbish, and we got a chance to have our say, and we took it and changed the way England and the world existed. I mean, the world's a better place for the 60s, I know.
There were some great characters. I mean, you've done some amazing pictures. Gene Shrimpton, Terence Stamp.
Yeah.
I mean, they were intense people at that time.
Yes.
You say now there are no beauties left.
Well, I don't really find any of the girls today beautiful. I mean, I think the last lot of genuinely beautiful people were that massive supermodels, you know, when they had Christy Turlington and all that. But it's sort of gone downhill since. I mean, Angelina Jolie's quite attractive, but I mean, there aren't the people like when I grew up. I was doing Paul Newman, Robert Mitchum, John Wayne, you know, you name it, and everyone looked different, you know, and all Ava Gardner looked different, you know, and Lana Turner, they all looked different. Today they just look like just a bunch of girls.
Well, at what point did you feel you reached the turning point in your career? As a young man, when did you realise you'd arrived?
Never. No. Well, maybe in the last 10, 15 years. I mean, I never looked, I never thought, I was always pushed myself every day. You know, I never looked at what I'd done. I just kept trying to achieve more the next day. You know, I'm a great believer in that.
You broke into America. You did something that a lot of people didn't, especially as a British photographer.
When the 60s took off, you know, everyone was doing everybody, you know, the Beatles being shot, the Stones, everyone was photographing them. And I thought, I've got to find some new people. So I went to Hollywood. And I met Fred Astaire and all this type of thing, and all they wanted to do was talk about the Beatles and Stones, and I realised that these people were really something. But it was the start of working in Hollywood that really gave me the difference. And being there and meeting all the PRs and all that time, you know, that's important, gave me a good standing, whereas, you know, Bailey and that never really left England.
You became Frank Sinatra's personal photographer for some time, and I gather It was Ava Gardner who sort of set up that relationship.
Well, I got to know Ava through working on films with her, and I said one day there's a chance I can photograph Sinatra, and she said, I'll write you a letter. So she wrote me this letter, and I went across, I think it was a Tony Rome film, the first Tony Rome film he did. And I walked on the set, gave him the letter, he opened the letter, he said, right, you're with me. And then from that day on, it totally ignored me. For the whole 3 weeks I was there, and I could go anywhere with him, you know, be sitting as close as you are, and I could go up, take a picture, he would never react at all. And that's the greatest thing that can happen to you. I mean, he's a good photographer himself, Frank, you know, or he was. And he was a great man. I mean, his physical presence was fantastic.
He basically gave you complete access then, in effect.
Yes. I mean, funnily enough, as it wore on, you know, I didn't work with him all the time. It was on and off, and he did a film with my wife at the time, Faye Dunaway, and I could have got that bit closer. And for some reason, instinct told me not to step, because I didn't want to be one of those people where you walk in, there's Frank and all that, all sitting around drinking and all that stuff. I wanted to be the guy taking the pictures. So I just backed off from the relationship. Then it became just photographer and artist.
So it's better not to be friends with
yeah,
him.
it turned out to be the best thing in the end.
I mean, you were saying he had a great presence, but what was so special about him, do you think? What was it that gave him that charm and charisma? And, I mean, in effect, you were able to really see another side to him, I guess.
Yes. Well, I mean, he just had a presence to him. There's only one other man I met who was similar to him, and that was President Kennedy. They just both had this magic, presence. I mean, if he came in here now, you know, the room would diminish, and it all, you just can't help looking at him. And he was wonderful with women. I mean, I'm a great sort of good manners man, so his manners with women were sensational, and I really felt proud to have worked with him just for that reason alone, because he was the most charming man. I mean, he was mad about Ava Gardner. I loved Ava Gardner. It was a great shame that never worked out for him. But he had a wonderful wife in the end, Barbara Marx, who was really a nice woman.
And of course, you documented his whole life and then released it in a book. But it was after he passed away. It's something you'd always said you'd do for him. And then...
I know. I always promised him one day. I remember sitting in Vegas. We'd just been to see some prize fight. It was Johnny Conte trying to get the world championship off somebody. And we sat upstairs in the bar afterwards. And I promised him, he said, what are you going to do with all these pictures? I said, well, one day I'll put them in a book. And of course, this became a sort of a running joke. But I mean, I just never got round to it. And after he died, I suddenly looked at all these pictures and I think, well, I'll just put together this tribute to him, which I hope people enjoy.
It's a question you get asked over and over again, I know. But it's like asking someone to pick their favourite child. What's your favourite picture? That's what people always ask you. But if there is something, or if there are some pictures that you feel are close to you because you have an emotional attachment, which ones would they be?
Well, a lot of Sinatra stuff, because, I mean, to work with him, you had to be the best. I mean, you had to be the best, no mistakes with him. But I mean, I didn't have any emotional. I just had, whatever the last picture I took was my favourite. I didn't have any favourites.
I know that your friend David Montgomery always talks about the picture of Brigitte Bardot with the cigar sticking out. It's his favourite one. What was it that you were trying to capture about her in that one?
Well, I mean, I just noticed when she was rehearsing that the wind was blowing her hair great. So, I mean, it looks like it's just me and her there, but there was a whole film set, and I'm jammed in amongst makeup people and hair people, trying to fill up this frame to get the moment when the hair blew, which it blew fantastic and gave me a great picture. I mean, it's just luck again.
Who's left to photograph? Who's managed to escape your lens so far that you'd like to get?
Listen, to be honest, Rich, there's nobody that I want to photograph anymore. Not really. I mean, my greatest shame is I was a huge jazz fan and I spent my life going to watch these guys and I never took a picture of them. I mean, I can't, that just shows you how blind I was. I mean, I could have photographed Dizzy Gillespie, Charlie Parker, and I think, that's my one regret. That's a big regret.
Now, in terms of sort of long-term projects, you've got this design now to find new markets and put your work out there. Is there anything else you want to really achieve now before you say, okay, that's it, the camera's put to one side, I won't do any more of that?
Well, no. I mean, what I want to do is to build up I want to go around America, starting in Seattle, working all the way down to Los Angeles, all the way across Texas up to Miami and back up, and Washington to Seattle, to find all the places that sell prints. That's going to come up in the next couple of years. That's a big thing. And then I'm going to go around the world. I want to get to China, India, all these countries and sell pictures, and the Middle East. I mean, there's loads of great markets out there.
And of course, you've documented history so well over the past 40 plus years. Your pictures will live on. In terms of how you want to be remembered, your legacy, what would that be?
Oh, as a failed drummer. No, not as a failed drummer. Nothing that I'm fully aware I've had a fantastic life, and I'm really fortunate and lucky to have that.
I wish you a long life and all the best.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.